Everybody, welcome back. This is Samurai Blitz. Thank you for coming on today. We are about to have a guest. This is Steven Wright. He's a congressional candidate, Texas 35. I saw him on TikTok Live. He had a lot of good things to say. He definitely attracted me with some of the points he was making on there. And I wanted just to get to know the man myself. So we're going to have him on today. And I want to welcome him right now. This is Steven Wright.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. It is Sunday morning, so yes, it's a good day. Today the Texans play. Oh, you're from California, so I don't know what kind of fan you are. I just think
I don't do sports. I've been in law enforcement my entire life. So every time we get involved with doing stuff, shift changes, things like that. So it's tough.
Oh, okay. I love the painting in the background, though, man. Jeez.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, Steven. So you had ran in 2024. Now, again, like I told everybody, I saw you on that TikTok live with Enoch, and I thought you had a lot of good things to say. And I was like, man, who's this dude? I need to go reach out to him. And I really liked a lot of the conversation that was going on there. And can you let us know a little bit about yourself?
Well, I mean, I don't hide the fact I was born and raised in California. We can't all decide where we want to be born at. I was raised in I think it's the third largest county in California, a very conservative county, and very supportive of law enforcement. That's where I did my career, 30 years as a deputy sheriff. I have a lot of interesting background because the economics base that I grew up in resembles the new Texas 35, not so much the current 35. So, yeah, so I retired here for very principled reasons to Texas. I wanted to live around people that supported law enforcement. I wanted to live around people that had the beliefs that conservatives basically follow, freedom of religion, trying to protect our Second Amendment rights, following the Constitution, family, faith, freedoms, all of those types of things.
Sweet, man. And I'm not gonna lie, the one thing that attracted me to you the most is I'm not sure if I saw it on an interview or I saw it on that live, but you were saying somebody asked you, because we all know Texas is heavily Hispanic, and somebody had asked you, "Oh, what are you gonna do for the Hispanic community?" And you're like, nothing. I'm gonna do something for everybody." Well, you didn't say nothing. I'm paraphrasing very terribly right now, but you said I'm gonna do something for everybody. I'm not looking for a specific group of people. I'm looking for everyone, and that's one thing. Being a Hispanic male, I hate that inferiority complex a lot of Hispanics got. Like, what are you gonna do for us? What are you gonna do it for yourself? I mean, what are we talking about? And I did appreciate that because I want somebody that's unapologetically conservative. I don't need this little and put on some Spanish music, get mariachis, and be like, "This is what I'm gonna do for you guys." Like, I want somebody that's just gonna say, "I'm gonna do conservative policies that are gonna help people that want to better themselves," and I like that about you.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, if you're gonna get into a congressional race, every policy and everything that you do affects everybody, and it should affect everybody the same.
Exactly, and I totally agree with that. I do want to say, since you are from California, do you get a lot of pushback because you're not a native Texan, or is you don't really come into that at all?
So doing this now for, let's say, a little over 2 years, because I ran in the 35 last year, trying to push back against some of that progressive ideology and philosophy that I don't agree with. That was my motivating factor to jump into the race last year, as it was. So a lot of the things that I think we got a lot of positive feedback was that people are tired of seeing polished people come in running for office, trying to represent. Maybe they don't have any public service background. And so the appeal seemed to be somebody that was untraditional to politics, but has had a ground base of public service that is looking to do the right thing for the right reasons, maybe ethically or morally grounded, and go into what we're trying to fight back against. One of the reasons why we put Trump in office was to push back and fight back against the swamp. And that's the same kind of premise. And it also is wanting to have people that resemble the constituency base that you are wanting to represent, instead of having people that just want to represent for whatever reason. So blue collar, working class backgrounds was also an additional appeal.
Mm. Oh yeah, definitely, and I agree with all of that for sure. What made you want to run for Congress? What made you want to put yourself through this hell of campaigning and all that funding, all that kind of stuff?
It's not a pleasant experience, from what people would like to think. But I mean, you get so involved with doing the career. I was an actual elected representative for our union for over 15 years, trying to do things to make a good, safe work environment, competitive wages, and things like that for the deputies that I represented, almost 600 of them. Um, it was natural, and you don't sit there and get reelected 8 times, very for a very lot of A dominant personalities, without doing the right thing and them knowing that you're trying to do the right thing for the right reasons. And
Mm,
so, coming from that law enforcement background, I did not have that intention on getting into politics. I did miss the representation. I did miss a lot of those things. But when I was working for the school district up in Hayes during the first 4 years of my retirement, I had a lot of free time. And you start looking around at the political base, the climate, things that are going on, and you notice that you're working smack dab in the middle of a district that is now being represented by a individual who used to be on city council up in Austin and took some political theater from some of those riots that were going on back in 2020, and he defunded the police department up in Austin.
mhm,
And that's something you simply do not do, if you want to have a safe community. You want to have accountability, responsibility for the people that are breaking the law. Society put in, these types of laws that deem things to be unacceptable as society, and they're not there to punish people, but they're there to detract or deter people from committing crimes to begin with. So when I started doing a little bit more research, obviously, you had a department that was well over 1,500 people. They had 6, 7, 8, 900 people leave, retire, go elsewhere. And what happens to that community with the police and to continue making it safe, because nobody wants to work for a entity, which is the city council, who says your job is no longer important, you're not viable, you're not we can't trust you. And so nobody wants to be in that toxic environment. And so I jumped in because of that platform, failed policies, failed ideologies for communities, that these progressive individuals are pushing. We see some of that down in San Antonio. I know you're from
yes.
San Antonio.
You see a
They're
lot
not
of that.
correct. They're not defunding the police. Let me be correct, down in San Antonio, but they're not properly funding them either. And so that's important to me, to be able to have somebody that is willing to support law enforcement, public safety, for our communities. And I heard a lot of that when I was actually door knocking during the last campaign.
Yeah, up in we're in San Antonio, we look at Austin like it's a lost cause already. Like, I'm not gonna lie, the way we look at it here, we're just like, man, that's San Francisco light. Who cares what they
Correct.
do? 'Cause I mean, it's out of control. There's tent cities everywhere, bums, drug addicts. It's terrible, man. It looks like a third world country sometimes. I look at, like, I've been to Cambodia and I'm like, God, some Cambodia looks better than this. Yeah, unfortunately, it's a lot to do with, especially judges letting people out, not holding people accountable. I know you touched on education. I was an educator for about 15, 16 years.
Yeah.
I just recently stopped being an educator just because of the fact that there is no accountability in the schools. The kids do whatever the hell they want. They smoke weed in the restroom. They cuss out teachers, and then they get a bag of chips. I used to like have literally somebody, because I tell them to read, cuss me out, and then they go to the office and they come back with chips and just do some half-ass apology. And they're like, "Oh, he's ready to come back in." I'm like, "Well, I want to get in trouble too. I want some chips." Like, what am I doing here?
I want the reward.
I know I'm all chipless over here. Come on, it's just ridiculous. And I do hope whoever comes in is gonna hold these people accountable, because that is what's the problem, like a big problem about it right now. Since we're talking about accountability, were you there when California did the whole $1,000 if you steal under $1,000, you don't get arrested?
There was a lot of transition throughout my career in law enforcement that just did not make sense. They increased the amount of money that would be considered a felony for misdemeanor crimes or
Mm.
petty theft. They raised it up to about $950. I don't know where it's at now. I could care less. I'm here. I'm wanting to protect why I came here and keep California politics out of Texas. And so that's kind of a sideline gesture that I'm trying to make, is that, I do see some red flags. You mentioned the homeless population up in Austin, and that exactly resembles what's been going on in California for many
Mm.
years. And so they just dump money into these programs and stuff, and people just keep having to pay for these things that aren't working. And you take it to the next level up in federal government. We started seeing some of the fraud that did come out of California, where I talked about this the other night too on the live, where California dumped about $24 billion in homeless measures and NGOs and different things to help, and it blew up and expanded the homelessness there. But people have to understand that this is a networking program. They look for communities that have been told that their law enforcement cannot have a hands-on approach to dealing with these things. They, if you see somebody under the influence of drugs, having drugs, using drugs in public, they don't want their law enforcement to take active, proactive measures against these individuals. And so when California people started screaming for audits for that $24 billion, all of a sudden you saw the transition go from inactive to proactive measures regarding homeless measures from law enforcement. It was like they were given the green light because they don't want to sit there and have to open up their books in doing such. You look at Austin and you have some of the same things that are going on up there. And many of the people that I've talked to that work up in Austin, it's the same thing. We can only do certain things when it comes to the homeless. And we keep seeing that their budgets blow up and explode for giving city dollars, tax dollars to these programs. San Antonio does a little bit different, but it's
Yeah.
still the same things.
We have we have homeless people. Downtown's gotten really bad. I went downtown a few times within the last 5-6 years, and I'm just like, this place is terrible. I don't even want to be down there. And I just don't like it. But who would have known, right? Grant writing is where it's at. I wish my guidance counselor told me about that. I would have started a few daycares out here. But it's just like, wow, they're just giving money away. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
And that is the problem. We do get a lot of Californians. I know even when I was teaching, we get a lot, and it's always, well, in California. And my answer to that is go back. Go back. Yeah, like you left for a reason. You didn't leave because it was too good there. Like let's get it straight.
I live up in Kamal, and we bought our property back in 16, started building our house in 18. We transitioned the family over here so my daughter could go, to high school for the last 2 years of high school. But I stayed in California for 2.5 years to finish out my career. And one of the things that we did right off the bat to make sure was we got those California plates off of our cars. People don't like to see it, and you want to assimilate. You don't want to sit there. You came here for a reason. Let's make it so.
Definitely. And that's the kind of Californian when I hear somebody like, "Oh, I came here because I want to be around more conservatives." It's like, "Great. Okay, good. We're not going to change it. Like, let's do that." What are some major differences you see before we get more into the weeds between California and Texas that you automatically like, "Wow, this is totally different."
It's so their views on crimes. You just don't have that accountability, and it's starting to get pushed out through Austin. When the voting base starts taking over the county seat, which is kind of what we see up in Austin as it is, whether it's city council, whether it's the governing base. But if you look at a lot of that, they're pushing these softer agendas where they're trying to dehumanize crimes to make things sound more warm and fuzzy and appealing. But yet you leave other laws on the books that just don't make sense. If you sat there early on in my career and a woman who happened to be pregnant went out and used illegal drugs, and at some point in time that drug use caused the death of their unborn baby, we could charge her, okay, depending on the term that death occurred from inside the womb. And that changed over the years where it's an addiction. You can't hold somebody accountable for doing and having something that's a disease. It's an addiction. It's a personal problem.
It's out of
But
her
yet,
hands, right?
correct. But if you're driving down the road, if that same female's driving down the road who's pregnant and a drunk driver happens to hit her, maybe either take her life or the baby's life, you can now charge up to 2 crimes if it's both of them, for the same issues, because that baby's still in the womb and it still has the same gestational period of growth in that woman, but you can't hold somebody personally accountable.
Yeah, it's double intoxicated manslaughter, right? But they count the baby then, but it's just a couple
involuntary
cells in
or
every other
homicide,
situation.
or
Yeah.
maybe they have a prior DUI. It's just, you just compound those charges. But the constant money grab. I think when we started retirement here, we right off the bat we saved. Well, it took me about a year and a half to get off the tax base from over there, but almost $16,000 a year, and most of that, or half of it, was state income tax. And if you look at when Beto was trying to run for governor a couple years ago against Abbott during the last cycle, he was trying to bring in or institute the idea that we need to institute a state income tax here, but he never could explain what it is that we needed the money for, with the amount of excess funds that we have that we collect on an annual basis here in Texas as it is. So why? What was the purpose? So they try to chip away at some of these things because they're working in other blue states, not necessarily California, but they're working in other blue states. Red flag laws, I don't like them. I used them when I was in California for very specific crimes, and I've seen where they can be very proactive in doing such. And I've got one instance if you want to hear it, but
yeah, we'd love to hear it.
we don't want to get into what we've seen over the last 4 years with the weaponization of our judicial system, and have something like red flag laws that we can have used against us. They've already tried to use it against our veterans with PTSD. And so we don't need that. We need to protect the Constitution as it is, our citizens as it is, and so we need to identify the laws that work and don't work, and we need to do better in government from the top down.
For sure. All this is, the way I see it, it's just feminists run amok, man. That's all it is. It's all feelings, feelings, feelings. I want this to sound good, and I want to be a good person. I'm sorry, man. If you have white guilt, go take that crap over there. I don't care about your white guilt. And I'm not saying you, but these white liberals that are with their white guilt, and they're just like, hey, let's just let everybody in. Let's just not hold anybody accountable. So stop with all that. And yeah, I call him Francis because I'm not going to call him Beto. I think he tries to wear brown face on us just to get our vote.
Francis O'Rourke.
Yeah, Francis. But yeah, he's just like one of the most epic losers ever. He just keeps going, and he loses and somehow gains more steam somehow in the media. I'm like,
they keep funding him because they keep having him go out and helping their current agendas and being a voice and things like that as well.
oh yeah, it is insane. But yeah, it's like I said, it's all feelings over logic, and I'm just tired of it. Like, I know for a while they were trying to get rid of the castle rule here, and I was like, hell no. And a bunch of people got really upset about that. And it's like, no, if you come in my house, bro, I mean, you got, like, there's one option. I don't care what you're coming in for, you're gonna get shot, and I'm not gonna like shoot to like scare you. I'm trying to take you out because I don't know what your intentions are when my family's in the room next to me.
Right.
I'm not gonna.
And that's the reason for it,
Yeah. You did run off of safety and sanity, I see. That's a good slogan, and how'd you come up with that?
It was a little bit different last go around. My campaign manager kind of saw that and was just like, look, based on the last 4 years, it's just so much craziness that have come out of these progressive policies, making our communities unsafe. We need to do things that create a safe environment. And the insanity that we saw some of the legislatures and the movements and stuff over the last 4 years, we need to bring some sanity back into normalization into what we do for government. You know, I don't know about you. I don't have faith in Congress. I don't have trust in Congress. Most of the people that I've ever talked to over the last 2.5 years don't have faith and trust in Congress, and we need to bring that back some way, somehow. So, you know, whether it's one candidate at a time or a group of candidates that are trying to grassroots get elected, but we need to have some people that are morally and ethically sound, because once you get into politics, it's like, no, that's not the way we do things. This is the way it's always been, and this is how it works best. And just because that's the way you guys have been running it doesn't necessarily make it the best for Joe Citizen who's struggling, you know, because you've got this expensive college background or this law degree that you've been working on, or you're a doctor. You're disconnected with the general public. You have no clue what they're doing, but you're making decisions that affect them pretty substantially.
One of the things I see in the especially conservative movement is this apologetic, approach to everything. And that's one question I have for you because I want an unapologetic like candidate. I want somebody to say, I do not care. We're gonna arrest illegals and take them all home. I don't care. They're criminals. If they're here illegally, they're going home. And we have rules. We have rules like every other country in the world. We're very sympathetic towards the illegal immigrant. And I get there's sob stories of this and that. I get it, but that doesn't just give you a right. Because what are we gonna do case by case? Like, oh man, I feel bad for that guy. No, you're here illegally. You broke the law. You're going home. And at that, we're giving them a free ride home. And I want to ask you: are you unapologetic about deportations and the ICE operations?
I am unapologetic about it. We need to do things the
Awesome.
right way, and in doing the same, enforcing our laws that haven't been enforced for so long. I've seen so many things, over my career. Um, you know, some of my background, I grew up where Cesar Chavez was actually in the prime area that he was doing UFW. And so, I had friends in Border Patrol into my career before my career started. He was an advocate for maintaining our wages and stuff for the people that are doing things the right way. They're here on visas. They're migrant farmers. They're making a contribution to society. But if he caught somebody that was here illegally, they would go out and scoop them up, and a lot of people don't know that, but they beat the dog crap out of them. And
Yeah,
so
he
then
was
they
he
would
was
turn them
totally
over to
right.
ICE or Border Patrol back in the day, to get them deported, and so the cycle would start all over again. But it's just it's just tough. We just had the announcement this week that they're getting ready. San Antonio's getting ready to have meetings and stuff about the interactions that police are going to have with ICE actions down in that area. And so they're already admitting that there's anywhere between 100 and 250,000 illegals in San Antonio. And so they've already got those numbers developed and identified, so to speak. So it's going to be a tough haul in San Antonio, but there was a lot of support for Trump because people that came here did it the right way, their families, their relatives, and they're tired of seeing people get in front of the line for doing things illegally or the wrong way, and having no remorse about wanting to sit there and assimilate or do things the right way. I mean, they had almost 4 years to get the paperwork filed to at least get the citizenship status filed. So whose fault is it really?
Exactly. And yeah, Cesar Chavez was, I mean, he worked so hard to get a livable wage, and these people came in illegally, and they screw that up because they work for less, and it messes up everybody that has worked so hard to get to that livable wage. And yeah, he was a staunch supporter of like deporting illegal immigrants for sure. A lot of
Right.
people do not know that, and they use his name a lot of times when they're talking about these like ICE operations. Like, bro, that's the wrong guy to use.
Well, take it a step farther. So if you look at the current 35 rep, Greg Casar, okay, are you familiar with his water strike, that 8-hour, 9-hour water break that he did on Capitol Hill in DC?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
One of the people that was there helping support him was Dolores Huerta, Cesar Chavez's wife. He's there supporting illegals and the premise that we need to be compassionate against them. And Dolores is there supporting that cause, where now they're supporting illegals over U.S. citizens and people that are doing things the right way, which it just blows my mind with that movement that she was a part of for UFW. Now they're turning around to support illegals and the priorities of the progressive movement. It doesn't make sense.
This is why we have no faith in government. They put us on the bottom of the totem pole. American citizens just get shitted on all the time,
Yeah.
and they look for everybody else, and it's like we're tired of it, man. I mean, I'm completely just fatigued with leftism and all the stupid things that they keep coming up with. And like you were talking about that meeting, I had saw Suk, which is my city leader.
Mhm.
That Indian lady, I forgot, it took something. I can't say her name. But
Sure.
yeah, and she's having this meeting. It's at 1 p.m. on a Thursday when we all work, so none of us can go. And especially like it is a lot better when a lot of Hispanic people I know that work would love to go and say we support this, because I came out on TV the other day on KSAT for saying I support this, and then they didn't even want to interview me. They were like really reluctant to, like, okay, come on. And
Right. If they're wanting to truly get public input, they want to have different times for these telemeetings or conferences or get-togethers, to gather that support. And it's important to change you as a politician when you're making yourself available to your constituent base, because people do work.
yeah,
That's what representation is all about.
especially people on the conservative
Mm.
side, we work. That's why we don't have time to be
Yeah,
protesting all the time over every little thing that Trump
yeah.
tweeted the night before, you know.
I
And
expect to see a lot of people that are retired at these meetings.
it's gonna be a bunch of retired people or a bunch of jobless, like, not doing anything people, and they're gonna have all these sob stories. And I had said it before, right when Trump gets in there, you're gonna hear just sob story after sob story after sob story, and it's we all knew it was coming. A lot of people don't have the stomach for it, but it has to be done. And if we want to get our nation back, get our voting up on the up and up, we gotta deport illegal immigrants that are tearing a lot of the systems that Americans work so hard for
Right.
down, and it has to happen.
Voting is important. You just mentioned that. They took 100,000 people off the voter base down in Bexar County this last year who were not eligible to be on the voting rolls as it is, for various reasons. I'm not insinuating that they're illegals. I'm just saying that for various reasons, whether they've moved, their records needed to be updated. Um, it's just amazing the amount of people um, that are left on these rolls and rosters, that there's no checks and balance how to get these things brought into alignment with being current. It's tough.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was like a year ago, they had the voting day on the night parade here, which they knew everyone's gonna be downtown at the night parade. As
Yeah.
and that's one thing that's going on with San Antonio. Nobody votes.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. So what are you doing to combat that, to get conservatives interested and enthusiastic about going to the voting polls? What's your strategy?
So the the new 35 is basically rebalanced to where it's got a lot of support out in the three new counties. So you've got Guadalupe, you've got Karnes, you've got Wilson County, and now you've got the west side, or on correction, the east side of Bexar County. So they took out the downtown area, which was traditionally blue, out of the 35, where I did a lot of walking, door knocking and things like that. So you've got Cibolo, Shirts, Converse. Some of those areas got a little bit more expanded out there by the base. And so those are people that traditionally vote conservative. And the new district, based on voting patterns, it's looking at about 55, 56%, conservative voting base. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
It's early.
And I know.
So,
No, Shirts
and
and Ciplo would definitely be conservative. I mean, you
all
go.
of Guadalupe County, even Karnes and Wilson. I mean, they're all hugely supportive of conservative base. Out there in those three new counties to 35 is actually part of the 15 represented by Monica de la Cruz currently. So you talk about voting. This last time when we went through the general election, we had almost 200,000 people that were registered that did not vote. So that was between the 4 counties of East Travis, the part of Hayes that the district was in, the 35 down the Bucky's corridor right there, and then it expanded out a little bit to Converse, some of Shirts, and then over down into San Antonio, which was the downtown the downtown area. So they stacked when they created that district, they stacked the voter base to be Democrat back in 2021 when they were formulating the district, but they had to connect it some way. So that was the 35.
Mm.
So when we ran last year, it was about a 70% blue voting base
Oh wow.
from historical value. So it was a tough race to get to. People don't want to donate to campaigns that they see as a lost cause. So I started door knocking and doing things like that. I was downtown San Antonio. I think I hit about 3,000 doors just trying to talk to people. I can't go anywhere without carrying anymore. I mean, it's just that way. I get too many threats. I get too many, people that oppose your views that want to, will bad things upon you. But I'm walking around the district down there. I'm watching active drug stops. People would sit there and get out of the car, go down an alley, and come back time and time again. And so this is what people want to change for that they're not getting in that specific area. And so it's tough when city council caters to the populace that has the most value in property taxes and create smaller districts with more police force. And then they create these larger districts for the lower tax base with fewer police. You see where their priorities are. And so this is what I'm talking about, underfunding, because they just don't have the amount of people. When you dump these drug rehab places in these lower economic communities, these people that come in and out, they do the same thing. They get out of their rehab for the day, they get a pass, whatever it is, they go out and they commit these crimes, they're using drugs, they go back. And the victimized population down there aren't getting a voice with their city council members, specifically District 5, Terry Castillo, I believe.
Mm.
So she was at one of our meetings and stuff that I was invited to with an HOA down there. And man, they're like, we don't get Republicans that come in here and talk. It's all Democrats. And she advertises herself as a staunch socialist. It's not even a Democrat. And so I start, getting some questions, and they're talking about gun violence and my views on stuff. And I got the stink eye bad from her because they don't want to hear it.
It's insane. I really don't understand their end game. And I mean, what is the end game? Just
Power and control.
chaos? Yeah, I mean, it's just all chaos. Like, and it's crazy to me that people would vote for a socialist or a communist or these democratic socialists, which are communists. Let's just be real about it.
Yeah.
So what would you say are the top 3 issues you would want to attack, or if you were to get elected, or even one issue? Just throw it out there. I know it's early in the morning for these questions.
So, I mean, I got a large platform because I listen to people, and people want things fought for, and it covers a lot of different things, and that's what representation is about. And I feel that we need people that have a vision to identify problems before they become a crisis, like we saw with the Democrats shutting down the government over Obamacare. Congress knew about that for 10 years. So it's a matter of identifying and finding things that don't work to make them work, or come up with solutions and ideas to make things work for everybody equally. Tax reform is a big thing. People respond better when they are able to have more money and keep more money in their pockets and make that decision for themselves on where that money goes. And just rooting out the fraud. I mean, we essentially are seeing the tip of the iceberg with some of the fraud that we expect are going to be coming out. It starts, we saw it coming out with the homelessness stuff in California, and some of the speed, rail systems and stuff that have been a failure for almost 20 years. But then Doge came out and started breaking down some of these things that we give entities and monies for. And then you started seeing some of the politicians out of Congress saying, look, it's not just one party that's doing this. There are that we're coming across from both sides of the aisle. What you have is driving vehicles like USAID that are being funded. They're giving carte blanche to what they can divvy out that money to. A lot of things are good things, a lot of things are not, but they give it to these NGOs that are here domestically. And then a lot of these politicians' spouses and family members are working for these foundations that are receiving this money, or these tax exempt entities, and they're making a large sum of money for not doing anything, and that's how they're getting the taxpayer money funneled back to them, or they're straight up donating to their campaigns. And it's illegal to have campaigns that are supported with taxpayer monies, but they funnel it fraudulently. So
like Act Blue.
well, that's another thing that I've got some friends that that they're looking into some of that. It's going to be a big investigation. It's going to be a long time because of the level of getting those financial records and such. I've done some of that stuff in the past through my law enforcement career, and trying to do things where people get scammed and trying to do the right thing for everyday people. They just get victimized, and it really pisses me off. Liars and thieves. I don't have value for them. And people that want to victimize everyday people, because out of all the candidates, I probably talk to the most amount of people, because I talk to people every single day, and I see the adverse effects on government on them every single day. And so it's heart-wrenching, it's sympathetic, it's empathetic to a lot of these things that go on. But unless we have people that are willing to actually start looking to fight and push back against the system, which is Congress, and not be a party to a lot of that, and start calling out the fraud, start calling out the policies that don't work, and haven't worked for maybe many decades, and then trying to do some tax reform to start bringing back the middle class and other things.
I mean, I totally agree with that. I want somebody that's gonna fight for us, and I do want to say you messaged me right away. You were like, "Yeah, let's do it. What day you want?" You went out of your way to make it very convenient for me to get you on here. I have a small platform, but we just started like a year ago, so we're getting in there. So you didn't ask, "Oh, how many people do you got watching?" Which I've had people ask me that. Like, I'm saying this from experience. Like, "Oh, how many viewers you got, and how many this and it's," and you didn't ask anything, so you came out and you talked to me, and I appreciate that. So you are telling the truth that you talk to a lot of people. I assume whoever messages you, because we don't have any prior relationship to one another. So I do like that I could get a hold of somebody that I would like, have a question for, and
Sure.
that's awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of issues, man. There's a lot. I would say one of the biggest ones would be the judges not being held accountable when they let out these criminals. And my question would be, is there any way like that you are, if you were to get voted in, that you would have some kind of pressure or some kind of actions you could do to hold these judges accountable in any way, because we're tired of seeing these criminals on the streets.
I would like to see and pursue that. I'm kind of an advocate for states' rights, and that's where you end up having a lot of these issues that get derived at, and that's why voting is so important because people usually don't associate these rogue DAs, like Austin. They campaign on and going after cops. They've done 23 different trials on cops because of use of force incidents, and they're goose egging these trials and convictions. They're just spinning the wheels for something that they just can't legally do. But the other aspect of that are the judges that are allowing some of these sweetheart deals for people that aren't police, the homelessness and things like that, um, you know so one of the things that got really close and personal was 2 weeks ago, they had a Caldwell County deputy constable that got shot doing private security off duty in uniform at a club up in Austin.
Mhm.
And so they had private security inside. They had a problem with this small group of people. They pushed him outside, got him outside. And then the constable who was working in the parking lot duty ended up having a problem with them. They were still having problems with the interior security, and a fight ensues, and they end up getting this guy on the ground and executing him. Okay, so then one of the participants that was involved in this, they flee in their car, and they run over the deputy when he was already on the ground. So they were able to go out and locate several of these people and arrest these people. And turns out that the shooter had 4 felony active warrants out of that general area. He had a progressive criminal history dating back to 2005, where it started becoming more and more violent, starting about 17. And one of the most recent felony warrants that he had was for burglary of an inhabited dwelling back in summer of 25. So just 8 months ago, and they set his bail at $2,500. So where's the justice in a potential capital murder case on a law enforcement officer here in Texas? So, I'm going to try to use my influence to lobby to get some of these things done with bail reform. Maybe because it involved a police officer, and the state regulates the licensing of police officers across our state. So this seems to be more warranted or justified, that if it looks like the case is not being properly prosecuted, that there's an option for the attorney general themselves, their office, to come in and prosecute that case. So it's something like that, a reasonable discussion to figure out a way to influence things. I'm not elected now, but it's things like that you need to try to influence local governments into doing the right thing. If you can get support from your constituent base to start doing that support, and you're leading the pack, which is what a representative needs to do, we've got a good chance of change coming.
Yeah, that's what it would take. But that's the problem with that. With white people don't trust government. They just go out there, they go to DC, and they just lobby all day, and they don't even care who they're representing anymore. They tend to forget that they work for us.
Yeah, and the longer we leave them in, the more self-interest that are prioritized to themselves, their family, their money. Whether it's the stock trading, whether it's these individuals that some other congressional members have identified that other spouses and family members are working for these groups that are getting taxpayer money, or Minnesota. It's been going on for a long time. They're saying these congressional hearings this week are saying that that's been identified since like 2017, the fraud that's been coming out of these daycare centers. And the first thing that they do when they get challenged on investigating or looking at doing these things, that they start screaming, pulling the race card. And so that's very difficult. And I understand that from the law enforcement perspective. I mean, I've been called everything in the book, but as long as I go home at the end of the day, everything's good. I get to see my family. It's all good. I know in my heart that I try to do the right thing.
Oh, for sure. You should see what I get called, man, because I'm Hispanic, and I'm a conservative. I'm like the worst of the worst, because you're white, so they just see you're doing self interest. With me, I'm like a backstabbing, person.
Yeah, you're betraying the party, which that they tend to traditionally say that Hispanics have to vote Democrat because that's where the base is. I've got a buddy of mine that is up in Waco, and he's very conservative, and they have some very staunch movements, and he gets all sorts of crazy comments directed at him because he's Hispanic and he's a conservative, and he sees that traveling all the way down to San Antonio, and he hates the current 35 rep. Sorry, but
Yeah, no, it's true though. But to be honest, Hispanic, like our culture, the way we were brought up, is very conservative. I don't know why it's such a like elite for people to. What, you're conservative? Do you not know how we're raised? Are you serious? It is very conservative, and a lot of Hispanics are conservative. Let me tell you, because I every Hispanic friend I have, and there's a lot, they're all the same way. We're all the same. Like it's
yeah. So do I. I mean, I work for the school district, and I have a lot of personal friends that a few people that are here legally. They've been doing things for many, many years, 25, 30 years, but they've never taken that step to get citizenship. But every time that it's time to renew your paperwork, pay your taxes, they have small businesses, they have jobs, they have families. They've created families here. They're doing everything but having a piece of paper that says that you're a citizen. And I've come up with some ideas and stuff about expedited citizenship for these types of individuals that are very much doing the right thing. We need to applaud them, and stop rewarding the ones that are here illegally doing the things that you know don't benefit a lot of things. And so
Mm.
the thing is that you should not have to go out and pay $350, $400 for an attorney to navigate the immigration process when you would like to do the right thing. And it should be that way.
Yeah, I've been to the USCIS and all that. My wife's from Japan, so I lived in Asia for about 10 years,
Yeah.
and I had to go through that too. Yeah, it's pretty grueling, but it's rewarding when it's all done. Like okay, I got it. We don't have to worry about nothing. We go to Japan every summer, and we're not like, oh man, how are we gonna do it this time? And that's people need to do things the right way. We have law and we need order, and that's one of the things. And especially like what you're talking about with the judges. Yeah, we have activists, not judges anymore, and they're pushing all these ideologies that just harm people. And one of the communities it harms the most are our communities. Like it harms Hispanic and Black communities because when
Correct.
you defund police, then you don't have anybody watching what's going on in the more poor neighborhoods that usually consist of having Hispanics and Blacks. And it's like, don't you want your communities to get better? Like, ain't that
Correct.
the goal? We want to leave. We want to leave this place better for our kids so they could grow up, with more options, with better situations in our neighborhoods. And yeah, I don't understand why people would be against that.
Doesn't
One of
make
the
any sense.
I don't want to take too much of your time, but who is your leading opponent right now that you would say that's attacking
It's
you more?
tough. It's tough to say because with them redistricting, technically the new 35 has an open seat. And
Oh,
so
okay.
during they give you a month to get to file and pay for the fees and stuff to get on the state ballot between November and December. And up until that point, we had six candidates that were running, and five more came out of the woodwork during that time. So now there's 11 people that are running in the new 35. You've got, I don't know if you want me to sit there and go into,
Oh no, I was just curious, like how many candidates kind of that was actually
yeah,
my a better
yeah.
question I should
So
ask. So
so
11
yeah, I mean,
candidates.
yeah, we've got 11 candidates,
How many are
and
conservative?
supposedly all of them.
Oh wow. Okay.
I mean, no, well, let me back up. There are three or four Democrats running on the Democrat side. This is
Mm.
just the Republican side. So we have 11 candidates on the Republican side. No independents that I'm aware of. Last year we had one, and they got disqualified because they didn't pay their registration fee with the state, and they didn't get the vote signatures to exempt them from that. So
And what
um,
makes you stand out as a conservative with 11 other people there? What would you say?
a lot of things. I mean, I have a very long public service career. I retired here, and based on the last campaign that I had, my new constable asked me to come out of retirement to go to work for her. So I'm back in law enforcement once again. I'm serving our communities. I'm doing the things that I love doing for so long, and now I'm here serving Texas citizens. And being the returning nominee from last year, I got almost 83,000 votes in
Mm.
the current 35. So Bear County, there's a little bit of name notoriety down in that eastern area to draw from. But and there are some of the new three counties that pay attention to politics, so they recognize me, but the voting base themselves do not. So I would like to think that, because I'm a non-traditional grassroots candidate with a long history of devout public service, um, kind of stands out to just a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's fantastic. And man, I the more we talk, the more I've been seeing your stuff. I mean, I got your back right now, man. I like what I hear. Uh,
I
And
appreciate it.
it's true. Like I want to help you. That's why I wanted to do this for people I know, so they could go vote. And I know a couple people out there in the shirts area, and I definitely want to go and at least give them some stuff, some videos. Like, here you go. This is what this guy represents, and all that kind of stuff. Any last things you would like to say towards the voting base to kind of get them enthusiastic about voting for you and actually going to the damn polls? Go to the damn polls, people. Go vote. When is the vote, by the way, before you answer that? Sorry.
So early voting is 10 days. It starts on the 17th of February. So we have until the 27th. And then March 3rd is going to be election day itself.
Okay.
So it's important. Voting is important. Okay. Up and down the ballot to support candidates that have common sense agendas, policies, platforms that affect everyday living of individuals is important. Having non-traditional blue collar working class backgrounds is important because you want your representative to resemble the community in which they are wanting to represent. And it just we don't have that. Less than 2% of Congress actually has that personal background, and so they become disenfranchised and disconnected with what everyday people are actually trying to do, and they're making policies for us without us having a seat at the table to vote with the things that are important to us.
100%, man. These people, I mean, a lot of them never even been in the private sector. They're just straight from college to, feeding off the government teeth their entire life, like Joe Biden. I mean, this guy was a professional, at doing that. And
Right.
they're all just welfare queens, going off of our money and not representing us in any way. They're just all there for lobbying and special interests and everybody else. We're all tired of it, man. We're all like completely, I mean, like
Our
I said,
pocketbooks are tired of it.
yeah, yeah. Not only, yeah, just everything about it. And it's good that you are, you've done regular life, your entire career. You've dealt with people, you've been around like every little situation, right? Because with the police, you're gonna see everything out there from good to bad to just ugly. And
More than I care to.
yeah, I'm sure you have a million stories about that. Hopefully I can hear those another time. But that's awesome, and I hope you continue to do your grassroots approach and get more people involved. And like you got a supporter with me, and I'm definitely gonna we'll talk a little later, and I want to try to help you out with the door to door and stuff like that. But
Truth is about the power of 10. You can affect 10 people who can affect 10 people. And that's where these things grow, and encourage people and peer pressure the heck out of them when voting starts and call them up. Hey, have you voted yet? All these things, all these little things make a difference.
yeah, especially like the text message, because that'll really alert people, because a lot of people forget. So
Yeah.
February, early voting, March, it goes down with the regular with the voting day, right? March, what was it?
Correct. March 3rd for voting day. Early voting starts on February 17th until the 27th.
Awesome. All right, brother. I any last things you want to say before you go?
I'm here for you. I want to sit there and be that voice in Congress because, you know, my family, my people that I work around, the people that I talk to every single day, they struggle, and they need to be able to have some faith that what our elected officials are doing actually are there to represent them.
Awesome, man. And don't let Washington D.C. Mess up your mind. we,
Yeah.
I always see it like, oh my God, what happened to this guy? You do look like somebody that's gonna stand your ground. I mean, like you said, you've seen a lot. That's what we
Yeah.
need. We need somebody with guts and somebody that's unapologetic. We're not apologizing for any of our views or our policies or things that are gonna make this community better, this city better, this state better, and the country better. That's what we need. And
Amen.
thank you for taking the time, brother. I really appreciate it. Go see what he's about and come up with your own conclusions. But hopefully, you come up with a good candidate so we can get Texas rolling in the right direction. Y'all have a good one. Peace.
If you want to learn a little bit more about me, Steve Wright for TX35.com.
Thank you.